Hi, I'm Nina Griffin, astrologer and magician, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. Coming to you from Los Angeles, today we'll be talking about retrograde planets in aspects and why it is that sometimes retrograde planets aspecting other planets are effective and other times not so effective. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of this and also demonstrate this with some upcoming aspects involving retrograde planets. We certainly have a lot to choose from in May and June. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you to all of my patrons at patreon.com. If you would like to become a patron and would like to get early access to videos, or in the higher tiers, access to exclusive videos, as well as access to live Q&As with me to talk about astrology and magic, please visit patreon.com/Nina Griffin. Also, I encourage you to subscribe to get notified of future videos so that you know when there's a new installment about astrology and magic. All right, so let's get started. So, as you can probably not just imagine, but you might already know, we have a lot of planets about to go retrograde very soon. What that means is that whenever there's an aspect in the sky, there's going to be a very good chance that at least one of those planets is going to be retrograde. Now, as I explained in my previous videos about Venus in Gemini retrograde, when planets go retrograde, they're moving against nature. The traditional concept was that direct motion was normal and natural, and a planet moving backwards was somehow going against what was natural, normal, expected, and smooth. So just involving a retrograde planet in an aspect already gives us a sense that matters might be unpredictable, they might be sudden in terms of timing, and they might be simply unexpected. The effects are not exactly what you might expect with that planet. However, there's another concept, and this is a traditional astrological concept that really you don't see very much used even by traditional astrologers today. And you certainly don't hear about it on predictive videos or podcasts or anything like that. I think people simply aren't familiar with this, but this is a concept known as returning. Now, as you can probably tell from the name, it implies a certain sending back of some information or a package. And what we're really talking about here is that when you have a planet applying to another planet, and that second planet is either combust, so within 8 degrees or 8.5 degrees of the sun, or if it is retrograde, this means that the effort or energy that that applying planet is bringing to the relationship is going to be returned. It's kind of like that Elvis song, Return to Sender, where you get a package or you get a letter and the original addressee is no longer there. So you write on it, Return to Sender, address unknown or recipient unknown. That's what this is. It's that the applying planet attempts to deliver its charge or packet of energy, and the other planet is in a bad condition. It's either retrograde or it's combust, and it's in no condition to accept it and make anything happen. This is why you can have a situation where an aspect is happening, it's perfecting, and then nothing happens. Well, it's a very good possibility that that second planet is either combust or retrograde, or even both. That could happen, as we'll actually see coming up soon. So it's one of those situations where you need to be very aware of not only what aspect is happening, but what quality and what's going on with each of the individual players. Because planets, just like people, go through phases of strength and weakness, and they may not always be in the right situation to accept the other planet's energy. Now, there's a little more to the theory than just what I explained, and I don't want to overcomplicate it, but be aware that you could have a situation where the applying planet is the one that's retrograde, and it's just applying to another slower planet. Well, a similar thing happens then. If the applying planet is combust or retrograde, it will not be in a very good position to deliver its packet of energy to the other one. So you don't even have to get to a return to the sender situation. You literally could be sort of in a scenario where the postman or that applying planet just falls down on the job and can never get the letter or packet there to begin with. And then nothing happens again. So I'll go through a few upcoming aspects and explain how this theory could apply to them. And then I think this will help us prioritize and give us a little bit of clarity into which upcoming aspects might produce effects in the world and which ones might not produce effects. All right, let's get started. So I will be showing you a list of these aspects in this presentation because I know that this is something that you'll probably want to take notes on. I suggest you pause the recording and you maybe make a list or get a screenshot, something like that. All right, so let's get going. So starting with May 9th, and these times and dates are all in Pacific time, by the way, since I'm in LA, but obviously it might be a little bit different for you if you're in a different time zone. Starting May 9th, we're going to have Mercury in Taurus trine Pluto, who is retrograde, at 24 Capricorn. Now, traditionally, we would say that the matter is destroyed, although not necessarily because Pluto is retrograde, but because Mercury himself is under the beams or actually combust. So what you've got here is a situation where you have both parties afflicted in some way. One is combust, that's Mercury, who's too close to the sun, and the other is retrograde. So if I were looking at, say, a horary chart or an electional chart, or even just looking for events to occur in the world involving Mercury and Pluto, I probably wouldn't count on the effects being very strong, very noticeable, or very long-lasting. You might even get as far as making an attempt, right? The delivery is attempted, but it just never happens. It's just never completed. It just never gels. So that's one. The very next day, May 10th, is Mercury in Taurus trines Jupiter stationing retrograde at 27 Capricorn. And here, again, Mercury is still combust. He's still close to the sun. So that again would destroy the matter because Jupiter is already stationing retrograde, which he does a few days before the actual retrograde date. And on top of that, Mercury is also not received by Jupiter. And what that means, if you're unfamiliar with the concept, is that Mercury is not in any of the essential dignities, or I should say in two minor dignities or one major essential dignity of Jupiter. So what that means is that Jupiter is having his own problems. He's stationing. He's not feeling so good. Mercury comes along. Remember, Mercury is combust, so he's not doing too great either. And he's not being received by Jupiter. Jupiter isn't even home for Mercury to try to make the delivery. So this is another aspect coming up that I think is going to result in, disappointment. Nothing comes of it. It's not a really great combination that you would expect to produce nice and long-lasting results. All right, now May 12th, Mercury is now in Gemini, and he is, of course, much better positioned because he is in his own home sign. However, he is still combust at this stage. So Mercury in Gemini, combust, trines Saturn, who is retrograde at 1 degree Aquarius. So this involves a retrograde planet, Saturn, and a combust planet. So according to the traditional thought, this means that Mercury and Saturn, again, are not going to be able to produce much of anything when they come together. So it's not a great combo. Now, May 20th, things start looking a little bit better. We've got Venus retrograde in Gemini at that point, and she will square Neptune at 20 degrees Pisces. Now, this could maybe work if in the particular election or the particular horary, Neptune were angular or succedent. If he was in one of the angular or succedent houses, this might work. Generally, what this means is that there's a theory or there's a part of this discussion that says that if the non-retrograde planet is angular or succedent, then it's sort of strong enough, it's healthy, it's not retrograde, and it's in a house where it can assert itself. So in those situations, that might bring something about. Now, the question really is Venus square Neptune bringing about anything really constructive? I'm not so sure about that. But I think there are scenarios at least where this combination could produce an effect. Again, it may not be a desirable effect. We could be looking at deception, self-deception, deceived hopes, that kind of thing. But nonetheless, something comes about. Now, May 22nd, Mercury will be in Gemini, and he will conjoin Venus retrograde again at 20 Gemini. And here we have potential success. At this point, Mercury is out of combustion. He's in his own sign, which is a bonus, and he's conjoining a retrograde planet. So there could be potential success. These two planets conjoining could bring something about if they are angular or succedent in whatever chart you're looking at. So again, if you're electing, if you're doing a horary, you will want them to be in an angular or succedent house in order for them to bring about their effects. And as I have mentioned in previous videos, Mercury conjunct Venus in Gemini, even though she's retrograde, is kind of a nice combination. It's very social, it's very vibrant and vital, it has a strong emphasis on the arts and beauty, so I think we could do something there. Now, June 2nd, Mars is going to be in Pisces, and he will square Venus retrograde at 14 Gemini. And here we have potential for success, because Venus, because she is the exaltation ruler of Pisces, she is actually receiving Mars. So what that means is that Venus is going to be a very friendly and helpful host to Mars. So even though it's a square, it's not ideal, but there is that reception, so this, whatever the matter is that they represent, can be successful. Now, June 3rd, the Sun will conjoin Venus, retrograde at 13 Gemini. And this can work if the conjunction is angular or succedent, sort of a similar situation as we saw with Mercury and Venus. So if they are close together, like this, and if they are in a house that's angular or succedent, the matter will come about. Now again, Venus is going to be retrograde, so I would question whether what it brings about is permanent, durable, whether it's solid and reliable. That's a different issue. However, there will be an effect. Unlike with some of the aspects we saw earlier in May, we at least have an opportunity here to make things happen. All right, I hope this was helpful for you. If you would like to read more or learn more, I encourage you to get the Introductions to Traditional Astrology, translated and edited by Ben Dykes. It's a wonderful book, and there's a whole chapter just on this concept. So I encourage you, if you want to learn more, to get the book and read up about it. All right, thanks everyone. This was Nina Griffin. Again, if you would like to support my work, I would appreciate it if you just go to patreon.com. And certainly, please do subscribe and don't forget to like.